Truthfully, like this has never gotten old to me. Just seeing agents autonomously browsing the web and then doing things, I find it extremely entertaining. And I mean, just the way it scrolls down on the page like that is quite funny. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a very cool new multi-agent system from Microsoft called Magentic-UI. Now, you may have heard of Magentic before, and about late last year, they had come out with something called Magentic-One, which was actually quite similar to what we're going to be seeing today, except it was a bit rougher around the edges and only ran in the command line. So Magentic-UI is kind of a big improvement on that, where it gives us a very good looking web UI. And the big exciting thing, at least for someone like me, and what I would assume for a lot of folks on my channel as well, is that this can run using a local LLM. So out of the box here, they have actually included Ollama support, which is really fantastic to see. Now, the downside of that is the actual models that can handle running this will require a fairly significant amount of computational horsepower. So we will be demonstrating this running with a local model, as well as just using an OpenAI API key to be used with GPT-4o or something of the sort. There is a lot more information here in the repository, but truthfully, I do kind of just want to get into testing this. So we will quickly touch upon some of the steps and prerequisites to actually get this running on your local machine. And following that, we'll just go ahead and begin to play with this. The prerequisites for Magentic-UI are pretty light, but I do quickly just want to touch upon them for the sake of consistency, I suppose. First and foremost is to have Docker set up on your system. Now, I am not going to go through these steps to go ahead and get Docker set up in this video, but it is just something to make note of. The second one is Windows specific, and it is just having WSL2 installed or set up on your system. If you are planning to run this on Windows, you likely are familiar with WSL and will be able to accommodate that prerequisite. Following that, and this is not strictly necessary because this will work with a local LLM, but you do want to have an OpenAI API key if you are planning to use this with a cloud-based model from OpenAI. And finally, you need at least Python 3.10 installed. With that, those are all the prerequisites, so we can essentially go ahead and now just run through the relatively simple installation steps for this repository. First and foremost, I am just going to go ahead and do a git clone of this repository's URL, just like that. And once that's done, I am going to change into the newly cloned repository, scroll down just a little bit until we see this little block right here, which is really the entire instruction for getting this set up, which is quite cool. So the first thing I want to do is just create a virtual environment and then activate it. Now, I have tried this using a Conda environment, and they do also mention using UV, but that's for the pip install, so we'll save that. But I have tried this using a Conda environment, and it did work as well. But just to be consistent with the instructions here, I will go ahead and just use this virtual environment. Now, before we go ahead and run pip install Magentic-UI, there are a couple of things I want to mention. One of those is that they do recommend using UV for a quicker installation, but instead of that, I am just going to go ahead and opt to use pip, as I want to follow the instructions exactly as they're listed in this repository. And number two is, if you actually want to use this with Ollama, as I will be doing today as well, you want to just jump down here and essentially replace this specific line with one of the ones down here, specifically corresponding to the Ollama dependency installation as well. So once we have that all set, and from within our activated virtual environment and the cloned repository, we can just go ahead and run the pip install Magentic-UI with Ollama in the brackets, and it may take a little bit of time. All of these are basically cached on my system, so things will go a lot quicker, and that's just a result of me having run this before. And once you have done the pip install command and everything has completed, you can essentially go ahead and actually launch the UI, which will run it on port 8081 on localhost. Now, I do want to quickly show how we would go about actually just using this with an OpenAI API key. Now, I do actually have one here that we can just use for demonstration purposes, and I have prepended the specific instructions that go like basically just the export OpenAI API key equals, and then everything after that is my key. So we will just go ahead and paste that into the terminal right here. And now that that is done, we are all set to actually go ahead and launch Magentic-UI, and we will be able to use it with one of OpenAI's models. I do just want to mention it may take a little longer to actually launch for the first time than what you saw here, but don't quote me on that. Really, the next thing to do is just go ahead and click this link, which will go ahead and open Magentic-UI. Now you can see I've played with this before and it saved some of my sessions, so that's just what we see over here in the left-hand pane. But really, our next step is to actually go ahead and begin playing with this. I am going to just go ahead and full screen this, and truthfully, I think I will zoom in the UI just a little bit. Now, being that I am going to first and foremost be using this with the OpenAI API key just to get a functional and quick demonstration of its capabilities, we are going to hop up here to the settings icon, and as I click on that, we will see just 3 options, which is nice and simple. So we have general, which is just dark mode, an action approval policy, and then an allowed websites list. So if I did toggle this on, I could basically just allow only specific websites and restrict everything else, which is nice to have. And they do have an action approval policy, which I have just set to never require approval, but you can actually use AI-based judgment here, which is quite cool because from my understanding of what that terminology means, it would essentially parse the AI to determine whether or not it was safe to proceed with whatever action. So that is kind of cool, but I will just be careless and do never require approval. Then we have advanced, which I truthfully am just not going to touch anything in right here, where it can replan or retrieve relevant plans. So I'm leaving all that default. And finally, here we have the model configuration. Now, this won't be as important here since we're using an OpenAI API key, but all we're going to do right now is just select the specific model we want to use this with. In the interest of, I suppose, saving money in credits, I will probably just opt to use 4.0 as it is quite decent for these specific tasks. Now that that's done, whenever you change the settings here, you just need to go over and make a new session, and really, we can go ahead and begin playing with this. So let's just do a simple one like search here for the latest papers on computer use agents. Now, as we do that, we are going to see that we actually get a view of the browser running in the Docker instance that this is using. So it is a Chromium browser, I do believe, and essentially it begins by outlining a plan. You can edit it directly or through the chat. So I could either just like change this, or I believe I could kind of just ask it for changes here. However, I'm going to accept this plan just by clicking the green button right here, and we will basically see this go ahead and now autonomously go on the website here and search for the specific things I asked it to. Now, I am going to just go ahead and full screen that. So keep in mind, I'm not touching this. So this is all being done autonomously by what I do believe would be the web surfer agent right now. But the orchestrator agent and some others are playing a part in it as well, as they denote the specific action plan and things like that. Don't quote me on that because my knowledge may be based on the old Magentic-One, but I do believe they are architecturally quite similar. And we can see it basically went ahead and just automatically typed computer use agents into the search bar, and it's going ahead and searching for them. Okay, so it did correctly search, and there are a lot of results right here. So I don't want to, I think if I press X on this, okay, good, it just minimizes it. And then basically it shows what it's doing right here. I typed this, then I typed this, and it is showing here the latest papers on computer use agents, and it basically gives them right here. Now it is still processing. I'm not quite sure because, okay, good. It should have understood that it did successfully complete this task, but this is really quite cool and simple because it essentially just went ahead and autonomously did all that based of just a 1-sentence prompt right here. Now, again, using this with something that is API based, so an OpenAI model or something like that, can definitely become expensive quick because the amount of tokens being used both to parse the image, which I do believe it is taking screenshots as well here. Yes. Okay. So it is parsing actual images, and it is also parsing relatively large text prompt as the orchestrator tries to kind of plan everything out in a structured way for the AI to respond to. It can get kind of expensive. Now, I think I will just do one more, but instead of using one of the default ones here, I will perhaps ask it something more akin to my personal style, we could say. I'm now asking it to go to Reddit, take a look at the Wall Street Bets subreddit, and then give me a high-risk, high-reward YOLO trading strategy to go all in on Monday morning. We will see. Now, based off of some of the things I've tested with this previously, I don't think it will refuse this one. I'd asked it something perhaps a bit more eccentric, and it did agree. So, okay, it gives us the step right here, which is essentially its plan of action. And then if we do choose to accept right here, it will just go ahead and proceed. Now for this, I am going to keep this pane right here open as well as the browser so we can kind of see everything happening at the same time. Something I am a little confused about is basically I had turned off the approval policy and I set it to auto approve, but it still does ask me to accept the plan and things like that. So perhaps that is a separate entity from auto approving, and perhaps it would just basically ask me before it did any of these actions if I had that off. So I mean, it is just quite interesting because truthfully, like this has never gotten old to me. Just seeing agents autonomously browsing the web and then doing things, I find it extremely entertaining. And I mean, just the way it scrolls down on the page like that is quite funny. So it's identifying high-risk YOLO strategies. It's scrolling down further to look for posts that discuss those strategies. It scrolled down one page in the browser. There's a post where a user mentioned taking $100K from a house sale to purchase 303 shares of UNH. Well, their spouse believes the money is in a high-yield savings account. It's examples of a high-risk YOLO. Oh, that's terrible. So it has produced the high-risk YOLO trading strategy, which basically just has regurgitated to us a questionable decision where an individual took $100,000 from a house sale to buy 303 shares of stock without telling their spouse what they actually did with the money. So, I mean, based off of what I asked it, which was to go to Reddit, look at WSB, and give me a high-risk, high-reward YOLO strategy to go all in on, it did correctly kind of respond with what I'd asked it. So, and again, it's very cool to just see it browsing the web and things like that. You can't actually take control of it right here. So I could manually navigate it to a page. As you see, I just opened a tab right there and things like that. I suppose some of that could potentially get interesting depending on your use case. But with that, we can just see the screenshots that it took here to actually help parse and understand what it's seeing. I think now what I'm going to do is basically just go ahead and swap over to using a local LLM here, and we'll see how far we get. Now, with using Ollama, I do need to first and foremost say that unless you're going to be able to run Qwen 2.5 VL32B at probably like Q8 or above, or the 72B, I don't really think you're going to have good luck with this actually browsing the web. In kind of support of that, we can actually see that I do believe this individual is a contributor. Yes, they are. They basically just mentioned that the agents won't work optimally with smaller models. The best performance this individual has found was with the 32B Qwen 2.5 VL. So again, a Q4 quant of that is going to require a 24 gigabyte or above GPU. So please keep that in mind. But I do want to show this with Ollama, as this actually being able to be used with local agents or local vision models is quite fascinating and of interest to myself and definitely many other folks. So really all we're going to do right here, and I will kind of minimize this for a little right now. I will close my OpenAI API key. I am going to go ahead and just show the Ollama models that I have installed right now. So I will type Ollama list, and obviously a prerequisite for this would be having Ollama and the specific model you want to use installed. So as we can see right here, I do have Qwen 2.5 VL32B. I did try it with 7B at FP16, but it unfortunately just was not working at all. 32B did work much better. So with that, I don't need to type Ollama serve. It should say a bind address is already in use. Good. Okay, so that was just me being like paranoid. Really? We just jump into settings right here. We are going to change the model configuration settings right here to point to Ollama. And fortunately, the default one right here is actually already set to point to that specific Qwen model that I have installed. And they do actually have some things here like JSON output preferred true. So I am just going to modify that to true as well. I have actually tried playing around with this a bit more, and I find that unfortunately it doesn't work too well with web browsing, but it will function in other ways. So we will just do a new session right here, and I will just try this one again just to see. Now this is a 5090 laptop GPU, so it can handle running this model, but it is going to be relatively maxed out. And unfortunately, as we can basically see right here, it will actually go ahead after quite a bit of time and come back with a plan. But once I approve the plan, it seemingly will just kind of go in a loop of saying what it needs to do, which is first and foremost actually search the web. So I'll let it run. The fans will probably become quite loud, and then we'll just be able to see that, and we'll jump in after that and try something that doesn't necessarily require web use. And as we can see, it did actually just generate the full plan of action, and this is a local Ollama model, Qwen 2.5 VL32B, that just went ahead and did all this. As I accept the plan right here, this is kind of where we're going to see things begin to fall apart a little, but just getting to that point was cool, I suppose. So essentially the hangup that I run into here is it basically just keeps regurgitating this specific output right here, and it doesn't ever actually begin to browse the web. Again, this is just kind of a limitation of the model that's being run locally. I do kind of wonder, say I made a new session and just said search the web for Reddit and then pressed enter, it likely would still hang up in the same way. I will just try this because it is really the simplest specific web interactivity prompt. It's 5 words. So now something that is a little interesting to me is that with Magentic-One, which was kind of an earlier variant of this that ran only in the command line, I did have it running with Llama 3.211b, which was a vision model, and it would actually somewhat browse the web and move around. Now, I'm entirely not 100% sure how much abstraction there is on top of just giving the model very simple and direct access to that web surfer agent here, because I would have expected this model would be able to autonomously perform some web searches, even at a Q4 quant. So again, that could be a number of different things, even just a simple misconfiguration of something in the actual config. And unfortunately, again, it just kind of gets stuck in a repetitive loop of saying that it has not yet initiated the task. So I am just going to go ahead and pause this one. And because I do want to actually show the local version of this doing something entertaining, I suppose, I will just kind of ask it to do something non-web based. So I'm not actually entirely sure how it will handle a prompt like this, where I'm asking it to do something code-based, as the Docker instance here just does kind of show us a web page starting point. So I don't know if it will by itself go ahead and kind of close out of that and just open up a terminal or something, but I would be interested in seeing. All right, we have our basic plan outlined, and it is just going to use the coder agent, test the game, and then iteratively improve the game until it no longer works or something like that. So we're just going to accept the plan. All right, so we have received some actual feedback right here. Again, it doesn't necessarily seem like this pane is going to be of any use for us when we are not using the web browser, but that's okay. And it basically, oh wow, okay, so it actually filled in a lot of steps right here that we didn't really see. First and foremost, it created a simple Python game, a number guessing game, which is usually where a lot of these models go when you ask them to do such a thing. Test the game, iteratively improve the game. So it is improving the game right here. Now, I don't necessarily see it having tested this here. I don't see any like terminal output of a test run. Maybe if I expand the lines right here, nope. So that's just additional code for the game. It seemed like down here, test the final version, final thoughts. These are the execution results of code block 1. It kind of did what I asked it, but again, not entirely so. But again, this is using Qwen 2.5 VL32B, and this is all running entirely locally. I could completely turn off internet access, at least for this test right here, because it's not using the web browser at all, and this would still be functioning in this manner. So that's really the cool thing about this, is while performance-wise with current local LLMs, assuming you can't run like a full precision version of QwenVL 32B or 72B, is not the best, but the option to have that is fantastic and very much appreciated. So it's just showing us the execution. Okay, so it seems like maybe it just didn't actually input its guess right here, but it is actually going ahead and doing this. It's given me more. It's kind of just telling itself what to do. So again, this is more of just kind of, as they put it in the GitHub repository, I think they said it was like a research preview or technical demonstration or some sort of verbiage as such, indicating that it is just for these purposes where you can play with it, see how it does. And then this is definitely still an early step in things like this, which is so exciting. So truthfully, I don't know what my temperature is at right now for the GPU. I don't think this gets too hot. Okay, 62 Celsius, which for a mobile really isn't bad, but this is power limited very heavily. So yeah, I did just want to share this and show it working with a local model, even if working has like an asterisk next to it for that it didn't fully work. It's very cool. I'm excited by it and would like to continue playing with it for other tasks off camera and things like that. There's plenty of things that can be done with this that would be a lot of fun. So with that, that is going to wrap up the video. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching.